Welcome back to Ferocious Education. This is Zed. Today we're going to be talking about Sundial Cannabis. Now this one here I did cover it in my previous video. You'll find it in the description below. Yet I have a bit more update and I'll be diving even a little bit more into the due diligence. Nonetheless, technical analysis does look interesting, and I'll basically talk from anything from due diligence, technical analysis, and what I think is going to happen next. Make sure to drop a like to this video to help this channel grow, subscribe, and leave notifications on. Let's jump right into this. So, if you would like to skip to the technical analysis, you can go ahead. So, Sundial. It has different products. I did cover this before. If you would like to dive a little bit into what I did before, you'll find it in the description below. They have different products in general, whether it's buds, vapes, oils, or even coming up towards the drinkable beers with weed infused. That's coming in down the line. But in general, they have different acquisitions, including, for instance, an oil extract, which is completely natural. That could be used as well for drinkables or edibles, etc. So the list is long. I did cover a bunch of videos about this one, so I do recommend that you go on to watching them, at least the due diligence part. Each one covers a different thing, and I'm usually not very repetitive at all. So that's why if you're watching this, you might think, hey, something's missing, but you're going to have everything you need to make an educated decision based on this video alone. So the biggest part that we've all been watching before going to SEC filing is the MORE Act. And what is the MORE Act, you might say? Remember the MORE Act that was just passed in the House? This is the decriminalization of marijuana, and it really does pave the way for legalization of marijuana federally. I'm not talking about states. Some states have weed, basically normalized weeds and stuff, but in general, marijuana in general is prohibited on the federal level. And so this will decriminalize it on the federal level. Now, it did pass the House, and SNDL seen a massive jump. Now the good question is, where does it lie and what's the future of it? So, quickly looking into the Senate, it's passed, it already received in the Senate, it was read twice, and it was referred to the Committee on Finance. Now, the Committee of Finance, well, that is basically the latest thing that we have for it in the Senate. The Committee of the Finance, I went ahead and tried to look into the page. So we have the chairman as Chuck Grassley, which is a Republican, and Ron Wyden. So Chuck Grassley, I believe, he is a Republican from the state of IA, which is the state of, I cannot even remember, but anyway, Iowa, my bad. Chuck Grassley is a Republican from the state of Iowa. Ron Wyden is actually a Democrat. So that kind of covers it. Usually Democrats, status quo, he is the Democrat from origin, but nonetheless, we want to look a little bit on the stance of what Chuck Grassley thinks about the MORE Act. So I went ahead and I went into grassley.senate.gov, and this is available online. And I went to under drugs, and I found a bit of a paper or a PR he released. Grassley-Feinstein expands, well, basically marijuana research passes Senate. And a bit of what he said here: I've been a strong supporter and lead Republican of this legislation since it was first introduced in 2016. This bipartisan bill is critical, better understanding to the marijuana plant and its potential benefits and side effects. It will empower FDA to analyze CBD and medical marijuana products in a safe, responsible way so that all Americans of the public can decide whether to utilize them in the future based on sound scientific data. Existing regulations make medical marijuana research difficult and have prevented us from understanding exactly how medical marijuana can be used safely and effectively to treat various conditions. Our bill streamlines the research process, paves the way for marijuana-derived medication that are FDA approved. So this in general is regarding the Marijuana Effective Drug Studies Act. However, a lot of what I'm seeing here is a little bit towards his acceptance of the use of marijuana, period. And that really paves the way. Now, of course, the Senate currently, as we speak, is going to be 51 Democrats, including Vice President Kamala Harris, and 50 Republicans. Even though there is a bunch of Republicans that are supporting this one, but let's say something happens in the Senate like always, and it becomes a tit for tat, and probably what's going to happen, well, a lot of the time this happens often, so it's not something new. You will have it passed by 51 Democrats and 51 Republicans saying no, even though some of them believe in it. But what I believe in this one, it's going to be a bipartisan approval after it goes through the Commerce Committee, or the Committee of Financials. Now, the current Committee of Financials, on their hearings, what they have is they're considering the anticipated nomination of the Honorable Janet L. Yellen as the Secretary of the Treasury. So you might think, well, who is that person? If you haven't covered them, just look him up. I do also believe that, well, they've also been nominated as well by the Democrats, and I do definitely think that they will be also in favor of such bill. Now, in general, if you look into studies, for instance, for what happened in Canada, marijuana does bring revenue when it's put into a streamlined legal side. And the Committee of Finance, it should benefit from such thing. And in general, it lowers crimes related to weed. Also, it makes sure that weed itself is not laced with something else, etc. I apologize if I'm using weed. The correct term is marijuana. So we already kind of covered this one here, and things are looking good. Now, the next thing is SEC filings. Something very interesting happened. Remember that offering I was talking about where they're going to raise $400 million, where they're going to pay debts off and all that stuff? And it kind of hindered a little bit the move. Well, they released last night or yesterday basically a little bit of a note that basically says they request the immediate withdrawal of the company registrations statement on the Form F3, which was filed with SEC on January 15th, 2021, which is literally this one here. This is the only F3 form that was submitted on January 15th, 2021. And basically here it says the registrations has not been declared effective by the commission and no securities has been issued or sold under the registration statement. The company decided to withdraw its registration statement and file a new registration statement F3ASR. So we're supposed to be able to get a little bit on details of the latest one. Now, they are submitting a new document, the F3SAR. I don't see it in here. We're going to go refresh quickly just in case it came in the last few minutes, but I don't see it up. And that will give us a little bit more of an insight of how much they're actually going to raise. I do expect to be for it to be enough to pay their debts, because that would be a very smart thing to do in the current time being. Remember, they don't have to reach compliance all the way until, I believe, March. Now, quickly here, institutional buyers, Finney Investments Advisors have gone and increased their shares by 69% and added around, 69.08%, with the current shares sitting at 64,250. Now, they did average up because the value change is 233% at only a 69%. Now, the next thing here was actually an article from NJ.com, True Jersey. And I just want to read here, well, it's likely that the first few days of the executives and legislative agenda will be consumed by the emergent matters. We're talking about Biden as the current president, the 46th president of the time. Cannabis reforms at the federal level provides a uniquely unifying opportunity for these desperate voices to coalesce and create a positive change. 3 marijuana bills passed the House in the last Congress, but the Senate refused to take them up. Now, Chuck Schumer, the New York Democrat, has introduced his own cannabis legislation, will be setting the agenda rather than Mitch McConnell, the Kentucky Republican. We appear to remain on track in federal descheduling, said Nathan Olgurin, chief executive of PinCan, which helps to provide financial services to legal marijuana businesses. Fasten your seatbelts, everyone. So in all kind of everything we're talking about here, we do think that we will probably see that kind of decriminalization of marijuana. Now, the good question comes in whether SNDL will try to expand in the US. And the question is, why not? It is an open market, a new market. They have products, and NAFTA agreement is in there, so they will be able to exchange products in general, and it makes sense to bring it from across the border. And later on, you can expand it to the US. Well, that is exactly the sense where, or at least the mindset that brought this one from 14 cents to 95 cents. Now, if you haven't done so, please make sure to actually drop a subscribe and leave notifications on. It does help my channel. It's not about bragging rights with my friends and whatnot. None of them even know I may have a YouTube channel. But the thing about this one here is it really levels me up on the algorithms and gets this channel recognized from others. And in general, that makes me motivated to make more videos. So let's move on. So, quickly looking into here on a 1 week perspective, let's go 1 week quickly. We get to see something is interesting happening. We're looking to see a bit more of a pullback. It's still bullish on this sense, and it is still above the 30 EMA, the 10 SMA, and the 50 SMA. Even though it's still looking a little bit bearish on a 1 week perspective, but it looks like it's actually in an accumulation zone after it was bearish. So that is a good thing. 1 day perspective, things get a lot more interesting. 10 SMA is above the 30 EMA. It hasn't even dropped into trading action zone yet. Every time it did, at least in the low of the day, it bounced right back. The trading action zone is between 68 cents and 57 cents. That is where you expect positive reversals to occur. The next thing here is probably within the next few days, or maybe next Monday, you're going to see something called a golden cross, which is a very bullish term. It's when the 50 SMA, the purple line, crosses the 200 SMA from the bottom. So we are actually expecting another push, at least from a technical analysis point of view. MACD here, it's attempting a negative reversal sometime this week. If it does reject it, and the MACD bounces right back, we're on for a good treat. Now, the last time it was negative, it just accumulated. That doesn't mean it's going to drop. It's just accumulated last time the MACD was negative. So I don't think it's something to warrant a bit to be worried about. On a 2-hour perspective, things are looking a little bit off the same, but on a sloppy manner. Yes, it is bullish. Yes, it is fighting, sliding a little bit right and left, but it doesn't really give us anything on a 2-hour perspective. Now, stochastic fast and stochastic slow are both showing a good indication that they're raising up right here. And then you get to see there is another leg up, although it's signaling a probable accumulation. Now, on the moving average band, you get to see 64 cents on the top, 59 cents in the middle, and 53 on the bottom. Now, it's still within the Bollinger Bands between 78 cents and 39 cents. Now, the next thing is the Fibonacci retracements. Significant supports lies at 58 cents, followed by 41 cents, followed by 14 cents. Significant resistances 71, 84, 104, and 128. Now, moving on towards price line actions, you get to see a support at 68 cents. Below there, 64. Below there, 60 cents. Below there, 56. And below there, you're looking down to 52. Significant resistances are sitting at 69 cents. And then above there, 72. Above there, 73. Above there, 75. Above there, 78. Comes to the question to Ed. What do you think about this one? Well, on the long term, their balance sheet is not proper. I do think there's probably going to be an offering, but for a good reason, where they're going to raise enough money to pay off their debt. US expansions, I think it's probable. It is more of a lottery ticket, though. And in the sense that it can pay really high. And another thing that I want to talk about is the legislation side. I definitely do think it's probably going to pass. I don't see why not. I see it will pass in a way or another, sometime in 2021. A specific timeline is hard to tell. But it's looking like a lot more likely on the legislation than it did 3 months ago. Or at least even when it went to 90 cents. Remember, at that time, we had 2 runoff Senate races, seats for Georgia, and the Democrats won both. And that is a massive news for this one. Yes, it reacted a little, went from 45 cents to around 82 cents, but I definitely think it's probably at least going to accumulate and not see the previous lows it was at 20 cents. Longer term, there could be a potential here. What do you think about the sticker? Make sure to mention that in the comments below. Share, subscribe, and like. You have a wonderful day.